For it to start. All right, cool. We are on the air. We're on the air with two artists from Richmond, Virginia, Lentz Marcel and Gary Alexander. I'll let you two. Oh, hold 1 second. I'm getting some echo. All right, cool. Sorry, I had my own video playing in the background. All right, anyways, so yeah, Lentz and Gary, I'll let you two go ahead and introduce yourselves since, yeah, this is probably the first time anybody in my audience is hearing from you two. So whichever one of you wants to go first, go ahead and take it.
Let's go.
All right, Lentz, you're on the spotlight.
Oh man, so fast. Okay, hi, my name is Lentz Marseille. I'm a 3D character artist. Still studying in school. Wanting to work in video games. I don't know what much to say. I could say my age. 21 years old.
How much can you bench press?
We're actually finding that out tomorrow in my lab class. So if I'm invited to another stream, I'll let you know.
Oh, excellent. Now, all right. Tell us where I don't know how you got started in what you're doing in artwork. I mean, because one of the things that interests me is that you're not an art major actually. You do, was it physical therapy? That was your focus?
Yeah, it's my school calls the major HPEX, but it's just health, kinesiology, exercise science, and the works. But essentially, it's a physical therapy major because almost everyone there wants to go to physical therapy. And so, as anyone who's watching might have guessed, I am self-taught 3D. So,
yeah. Now, would you say that what you do in physical therapy or what you're studying has in any way informed or benefited your artwork? Because one thing I've noticed when doing a lot of things that are definitely not directly art practice oriented, like going to the gym, I found that benefits my anatomical understanding and figure drawing tremendously. Have you noticed anything like that with your major as in physical therapy?
Yes, but not directly. The thing is, when people hear about what my major is, the first thing they think of is, oh, your anatomy must be so great. But you really only take one anatomy class, and it's just so overkill. It goes far beyond what any artist needs to know. But it's helped me in terms of understanding how to make better, like healthier, like lifestyle choices overall, so that when I go back to art, it's not. But again, I can be healthier and actually work on art with a better functioning brain, if that makes any sense.
Probably also less risk for repetitive stress injuries, which a lot of artists, get wiped out by.
Yeah, we can talk about that because I was a victim of that not too long ago.
Oh, really? Oh, go ahead. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I got tendonitis on my right wrist, which basically KO'd me for a while. Especially in the middle of working on a commission, which is not good timing whatsoever. But yeah, understanding, doing more exercise and actually like taking my classes seriously, doing more exercise, eating better, and living better as a human being. I don't really know how to describe it. That helps out a ton.
So, I mean, like, what are some of the common things that you've seen other artists, other students doing that you can identify as, bad habits that are going to limit the longevity of their career if they don't fix them?
Oh man, with a lot of art students that I see, because even though art's not my major, I hang around a lot of art majors, which is how Reagan and I met. With a lot of art students that I meet, it's always a big competition of who can sleep the least and who can work the longest hours. And so that's already like a good one to kick things off with. Like, students always try to brag about how many all-nighters they pulled or how many projects they're working on all at once and not taking breaks and not stretching. Those are the real big killers.
Oh yeah, I've definitely noticed that too. I mean, I used to pull, all-nighters here and there as well. And I just remember like doing that in my early 20s and feeling like a freaking old man in his 70s or something. I was getting sick like every month, almost every week at some point.
Oh man.
Living on nothing but ramen and sleep. Yeah, I was sleeping like maybe 5 or 6 hours a night on average. And I was not doing any exercise whatsoever. And I think if I had kept that up, I would probably have ended my career. You know.
Yeah, it's a thing like a lot of students kind of joke about and laugh about, like, oh, LOL, I'm not healthy at all. I can't even run up a flight of stairs, or I have no sleep, or I'm pulling 27 all-nighters. And it's a thing we students just kind of accept and make light of, but it can be very damaging. I've talked to a lot of alumni recently and talking about the bad habits in school and their consequences. That plus the few guest artists we've had for the concept design club, which is something I guess I can get into later.
Yeah, definitely.
They've talked about their health choices, and I remember one thing that sticks to my mind a lot was Ben Hale when he said his lack of sleep when he was working for an overseas client helped him develop pancreatitis. That was scarred into my brain.
Oh wow, I didn't hear that story from him. I mean, I know Ben. Geez, do you want to? Maybe I should have him relate that. But if you want to go into that, I'd be down to hear that.
Yeah, no, that's definitely his story to share. But
all right,
I'll
put a bookmark in that for when if I have Ben on here.
And that'd be cool.
So, all right, I'm going to switch over to Gary now. So, Gary, tell us about what where you come from, how you got into drawing, where you want to go with it, where you're at right now. I mean, the floor is yours, pretty much.
Sorry for being a silent dude. No, so I'm from Petersburg, Virginia. Actually, I moved to Richmond not too long ago after attending VCU. I got into art at a young age, largely just to get away from school because I hate school. That's probably why I'm what you classify as the opposite of Lentz, a studious man. I'm the college dropout boyo.
So you're the partying frat guy from one of those like 80s college movies.
Nah, it's
wearing
like the nerdy dude.
Varsity jacket and having 2 kegs over your shoulders.
No, I'm not that. No, I'm not that cool, man. I was the guy who kind of like. I'll be honest with you. I really wasn't like. I'll be honest. I'm like a person who just has a lack of motivation, honestly. But I'm still trying to. I'm trying to push myself to be past that, to be beyond that. Like I want to be a comic book artist. I want to do paintings, stuff like this. I want to paint. I want to do ink drawings, illustrations, album covers. I want to do a lot of different things, sculpture. So I'm really trying to push myself to do a lot more.
Yeah, put that one ink drawing up in front of the camera while you're talking, because I think people really got to see this one.
This was my headlopper piece for this monster. It was pretty much fan art for a headlopper contest, and
Jeez.
I did honestly. This was actually one of the funnest drawings I've done in the past, I guess, year. And it was actually really fun. Start to just get into the drawing and like experiment with the characters. But as far as like overall art stuff and just me as a person, I tend to be pretty laid back, but I'm a really critical artist. I'm pushing to be one of those fine art comic book artists who paint their work, who does layers after layers. And the bad part is I want to do it traditionally, so
yeah.
I might have to cut that a little. Like I might have to cheat a little bit and kind of push over into doing like scanning in pencils, painting over a few panels, and then like photoshopping it in to make it like just kind of to do something interesting, kind of like a J.H. William III type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been really getting into his work, like as far as looking at it and just like seeing what I could do with my work to make it more, I guess, in your face. Honestly, like my main focuses at times are just like I want to get into mood, emotion, like the mood, like movement, and overall just time, like just using time and movement as like a thing that I put into each panel and keep in mind.
Mm-hmm. So what's your tell my viewers a little bit about your background, like how you got started in art, like what were you into as a kid, and what was it like where you grew up, and how that influenced what you do.
Well, as far as my past, it was honestly I started drawing when I was in elementary school. Like most people draw in elementary school because they want to just draw and not pay attention in class. My thing was I was kind of bored of what was going on around me most of the time, which was actually I went to Petersburg schools, public schools, when I was younger. So I'm just gonna give you a good explanation. It's a combination of ghetto, not ghetto, nerdy, and like when you're like, I'll be honest, I started off in this place where I didn't really I didn't like being around people. I had friends, but like kind of up till high school, I didn't really talk to anybody. As far as art, my dad is a big influence on me. Although I'm trying to keep going, like my dad kind of stopped doing art, so he was a big influence on me as far as just trying to be an artist. Um,
Nice. What
uh,
what kind of work does he do?
he did paintings, like he would do paintings like mostly Black Power related paintings or just like
Hmm.
fun paintings, or he would do sculpting as well. But he kind of stopped like probably like once he retired at the age of like 50 something. Like honestly, my dad's the person who tells me not to be an artist and to be a teacher and like don't become the starving artist. And I'm just like, I guess I'm going to die, like because that's all
Same.
I want. I'm dedicated to being an artist.
Is there anywhere I your dad's probably more old school than us,
Oh,
but is
that's
there anywhere
mm,
online that his art is viewable?
I not that I know of. Honestly, the only art that I've ever seen of his has either been like something I saw in my garage or like a few that he had sold at like he used to do paintings for football. So he like or a football jersey. He pretty much did jerseys and stuff like that. So he kind of pulled back on the whole painting and art thing. If I had something to show, I would. I thought he was
Oh,
amazing.
nice. Well, I mean, if you ever dig any of it up in the future, I mean, you guys will be welcome back here anytime. So we'll have to do maybe a sequel show where you get into that a little bit.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's kind of interesting that he says, don't become an artist, don't become a starving artist, all that. I mean, right now where are you working right now?
Right now I'm actually I moved out a while ago, but I moved back. I had to move back to Petersburg with my mom.
Hmm.
I'm pretty much am trying to work this lifeguard job, but I'm trying to pull back on it now so I can just get a different job and I can you have more time. That's not like pretty much have like less of a draining like feeling every time I come home
Hmm.
because of the heat of the pool and like watching people in this monotony like it just kind of throws me. But I'm kind of just dwelling in Petersburg, trying to figure out how to get out of Petersburg.
So before we went live, you asked me like how do you have the energy, at the end of work to do a comic, right? Or to
Yes.
make sure I'm phrasing that right. If you want to
Honestly,
pitch
yeah,
that.
it's that's the better way of actually phrasing it. My question was just kind of like, how do you find the like just the overall motivation and just the energy and the drive to kind of get it done, like get shit going?
Yeah. At least the way I do it is I had to develop a fast style. Otherwise, there is no way in hell that I could get any of this done. So I had to kind of do the direct opposite of what you described you're trying to do, where you're trying to take like this really like highbrow like classical illustrator approach to comics, which I think is that's awesome. That's admirable. Anybody who can pull that off like gets mad respect in my book. But there was a time where I wanted to try and do that too, but I realized that it was taking me like a week to do a single page, and I was like, you know what? If I ever got this done, it would look amazing, but the odds are I'm never going to get this done. So what can I get done? Well, I knew that with some heavy practice, I could ink pretty fast. I could sketch pretty fast, and then I could ink over it pretty fast. Like I've gotten to a point where I can, on average, finish a page in about 3 hours. Uh,
Dang.
but that's kind of how I keep myself motivated when I don't have the luxury of working on comics full time. Because right now, I'm working a part-time job, basically driving a delivery truck. I deliver organic citrus to stores in San Diego County and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, so usually I don't have to do that too many days out of the week, thankfully, but it's frequent enough that it does chop up my schedule, meaning that it is really hard for me to basically just wake up and be like, yeah, I've got 8 hours of free time just to do just comics. And I mean, as we all know, that almost doesn't even exist. Even if art is your full-time thing, that doesn't even exist, because you've got emails to answer, you've got just little life stuff that comes up. So it took a lot of like reflection, and I kind of learned this while at ComArts. In order to keep myself motivated to keep plugging away at a really big, epic level project, I had to be able to divide it up into small enough bite sizes that I could finish on the regular. So in my case, like if I can just set aside 3 hours a day to ink a page, sketch and ink a page, and then look at it and tell myself, all right, this may not be the most perfect thing in the world, but I got it done, and that feels good. And if you kind of like acclimate yourself to those little baby steps and you keep doing it over time, a few days go by, and then weeks go by, and then months go by, and you look back and you're like, dang, I'm sitting on like a 32-page comic here or something like that. It's kind of like learning to give yourself, motivational cookies, I guess. And for some people, they are able to just stay motivated even when they're working on just like that one single painting for like months and months on end, like, doing a Albert Epstein level figure drawing for like 20 hours. I'm not one of those people. It's really rare that I can ever get into that headspace. I guess some artists can, like Alex Ross and Alex Alice and Sergio Topi and all these dudes who are, you can tell they have like all the time in the world to just pour into a page, and they've got just godlike levels of focus and motivation. I'm not one of them. And that was a hard pill to swallow, but I'm glad that I swallowed it, because then I realized, like, okay, that's my weakness, but what can I be stronger at, and how can I play that up and make my limitations into strengths? So that's basically how I kind of approach it, is finding out, like, realistically, what can I get done at the end of the day after everything else is done, or in between all the other things I need to do, and then just committing to making that happen, every day throughout the week, or at least, every weekday. Give yourself breaks. And you'll find that even though it might not sound like you're getting a lot done each day, the days will go by, and in time you'll notice you got a lot of stuff done over a reasonable amount of time. It's like, the whole marathon running metaphor. So yeah, that's basically, that was kind of like how I kind of came to that realization with how I do comics.
Honestly, I'm probably gonna have to talk to you either on stream or off stream about like how to kind of get that mindset, because that's something I really kind of fight myself on, is like, hey, I want to do something small. I want to do a page here and there. But honestly, I kind of want, like, you used to draw on regular size comic book paper, right?
Yeah, like I think it was in my second semester at VCU. I think I was taking like a honors studio, and I was trying to do this traditionally inked comic on kind of large comic size paper and everything. And yeah, that was a disaster.
I was gonna actually ask, how do you find a way to actually draw on that size paper? Because honestly, for some reason, whenever I try, my mind tricks me into thinking that this paper is too small.
You know what? It was tough for me. It was actually really freaking hard. Now that I think back on it, it would have made way more sense for me to draw everything like on regular, 8x10 size paper, and then just kind of, I don't know, maybe blow it up in Photoshop if I, scan it at high resolution or something. I don't know how other artists make that mental switch where they're able to work on these large pads of paper and stuff. Like my problem is that I don't know, like my figures get really wonky and my compositions just start to suck. I'll put it this way. I realized that working on paper that was too big, it kind of made it feel like I don't know. I would have a tendency to lean in real close and mentally hyper focus on whatever little thing it was I was drawing. And as a result, the rest of the page or the panel would just get really jumbled and disconnected feeling. But if I forced myself to, like, let's just say I was doing like a mini little, sketchbook size comic where it's just like real simple cartoon figures or something. It's like there's a joke or something in there. Stuff like that would come out looking way better. And I think this is my theory. Like I still don't fully understand it, but I think it was because working on smaller paper, like a smaller workspace, it's kind of like the effect of giving yourself more of a bird's eye view of what you're doing. So you're constantly thinking about the bigger picture. Whereas when I was working on a larger pad of paper, unless I was like constantly reminding myself to lean back and stretch my arm out, like I was in like a classical figure drawing studio, it just didn't work. It was too time consuming, and I felt like my style was getting lost in all of it. Like I feel like when I draw a little bit smaller, my kind of way of drawing characters and backgrounds and stuff kind of shows itself a little bit more, and it's just a little more visually appealing. And if I draw too big, I get stuck in the details of thinking about construction and all this stuff, which is good up to a point. But if it takes so long that you never get a page done, or you get too few pages done for your schedule, then it's kind of pointless.
Okay.
But yeah, so what size are you working at right now?
What was that last part?
Oh, I was asking what paper size you're working at right now.
Oh, right now I'm working on mixed media 14 by 17.
So pretty big.
That's actually because I told myself some of these images I wanted to do a little bit bigger, so that I could get an understanding for drawing bigger, but also because some of them are like a little bit more elaborate. Like you said, Sergio Topi. That's kind of where I was trying to get this this design for like this turtle made up of knights, like medieval knights here.
Nice.
And, I was trying to find a way to make the mace guy swoop, the other one pulling down. This just like strong axe wielding guy just kind of like hovering over the others, and then like putting a tree in the background while this turtle is kind of just sitting here tranquil.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe working at a large size is the best thing for you, but it really just came down to trial and error for me. Like it seems like the majority of comic artists work better at big size, but I realized that like the way I work is kind of ass backwards compared to most comic artists. Like, I mean, you've both seen how pencils look for like the big two comic publishers and most people in comics, where a penciler will finish things up like pretty well, like to the point where like the pencils by themselves are like awesome to look at. They have everything's clear, exactly what's going on. And then all the inker is really doing is just kind of following the pencil lines. For me, like I can't do that. Anytime I try to work that way, it just comes out looking like crap, and it's a big waste of time for me. I don't know why that is. Like it's always been like that as long as I've been drawing for. So I had to basically just take this approach where my pencils are literally like thumbnail sketches, and I just bang out my pencil pages as quick as I can, and then I spend like the real like bulk of my labor in the inking stage where I'm kind of puzzling things out and interpreting the sketches. And for that kind of process, I found that working smaller or zoomed out really benefited me. So I don't know if there's a way that you'd be able to try something similar, or if you've tried it already. But that's
Honestly,
what it came down to me.
honestly, just gotta right now it's me just trying to figure out how to like get myself on the path to making a comic. Like it's not like I can't like I can easily like lay out a page and like have fun with it, but then like when I get past that, it's like what do you do next type thing.
Yeah.
Like when I get started.
I mean, if you're struggling with like getting on the path to making a comic, it sounds like you might you might be giving yourself too big of a comic to do. And I know like this is almost like cliched advice now. Like I hear it everywhere, is to just give yourself like a 1 to 3 page short comic to do, even if it doesn't have to be comedy, doesn't have to be cartoony necessarily, but just something that is bite size in terms of labor and in terms of readers spending time on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I've just found that like it's funny. Like you can see this effect on Twitter and Tumblr and Instagram where you'll see like some artist post like some amazing ink work, and it gets maybe gets like, I don't know, 100 or 200 likes or something, maybe a couple dozen retweets or whatever, and then somebody will draw like a little like 3-panel simple cartoon comic that's just like some kind of self-help message or something like that, like, hey, don't forget to drink water, and it'll get like 12,000 likes, hundreds and hundreds of retweets, and their follower base just explodes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's frustrating because I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. But what I'm really thinking about is those glutes you were modeling. Go back to them real quick.
Oh, they need so much more work.
Oh, yeah, look at that flat ass. He needs to do some deadlifts.
He needs to do some squats.
Okay, so Lentz, tell us who you're modeling right now.
Right now, I'm just modeling. Oh, I should really turn that off. I'm modeling just a really overly buff version of Venom from the Marvel Universe. I started this. This is an old sketch I started during a lunch break once, and I just thought, I was browsing through Pinterest, and I just happened to find this one Venom piece, and then how you go down Pinterest rabbit holes of like finding endless awesome amounts of art. Oh, yeah. And I just see all these cool like Venom pieces, and I just think, what? It'd be really cool to see Venom, but like unnecessarily buff. So that's what I'm doing.
So as far as comics go, Lentz, who are some of your big inspirations? I mean, I know comics are maybe not your main career focus, but who are some of your favorites?
Oh man, I feel really bad answering this. I'm not really into comics that much. Because I can't really think. Oh wait, no. I'm a dead liar. Because Tyson.
You gotta bully this nerd into reading some comics, Gary.
He's more of a video game guy. Like, he's like
got your brain.
He's more of
a
video game, but like can't because like, Reagan, I'm pretty sure you're aware of this. Me and Lentz are like the opposite crew. Like, I like comic books and not technology. He's technology. He's studious. I'm actually a college dropout. Like it's all like, if you really want to figure, you're gonna have to go like a full 360 on some places.
I mean, I like it though. Like, you guys are like the start of cast lineup for a really good like Sergio Leone kind of spaghetti western buddy comedy.
We've talked about this so many times, Gary.
Yeah.
No, but I can say though, Tyson Hesse has to be the one comic artist I really look up to, and not particularly for his comic, but just his art style overall. It's just appealing. Tyson Hesse, or I don't know if it's Hesse, but it's Tyson like the chicken nuggets and then Hesse. Can I pull it up or?
Yeah, I'm gonna look him up too real quick because I'm the guy who does Diesel.
Yeah.
Oh geez, yeah, his stuff is freaking amazing.
I love his stuff.
I can't say I've ever interacted with him, but yeah, I've seen his work around. It's freaking awesome.
What was his name again?
Tyson. Let's see.
I don't know if it's Hesse or Jose. I've pronounced both.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But backing up a little bit. So, Lentz, you were pretty much like you were kind of in charge of the VCU Concept Club for a while, right?
Yeah, still am.
Okay. Yes. All right. You still are. Okay. Tell us all about that.
Okay, so the Concept Designers Club, the Concept Designers at VCU is just a small organization. Not really organization because we're not technically official by VCU, but we're just a small club of students who get together on Fridays, and we have prompts and do assignments and activities and have guest artists speak to us occasionally. Whenever we're lucky enough to find somebody who works in the industry, we just have them Skype in and talk to the students. It's basically a bunch of students who really, really want to get into the entertainment industry, whether it be video games, music, comics, or whatever. And VCU's ComArts' default resources for that are not typically the best. Like, you can learn a lot, but in my recent years of being around the department, the students that shine the most are the students that are mainly self-run, who like teach themselves and find their own resources and really go about their own ways. And the students who mainly rely on the school's resources are kind of they don't really know what much to do. So the point of the club is to get people who are like-minded and passionate about going into the industry together on Fridays, interact, have fun, quote unquote, network, and understand like ways to better ourselves and get into the industry together.
Nice. Lentz, I'm about to ask Gary a couple questions, but while I'm doing that, could you also bring up some of your, even if it's just like screenshots of some of your other work to show on the stream? Because
Sure.
you've done some pretty badass stuff that I think deserves a little slideshow or something.
Reagan, I'm flattered. Let's see. Can I change it to showing my Google? Yes.
Yeah, you should be able to just change it to showing your browser window. So if you've got any anything too fun, I guess I have to close it.
Oh man, my secret Tyson Hesse tab will be known by the world. But,
okay, cool. Well, so while you're getting that up, I'm going to switch over to Gary right now. So, Gary, have you've lived in Richmond or like the general area like all your life, right?
Oh no, actually, I started off in Petersburg.
Petersburg is kind of like on the outskirts of Richmond, right?
It's a whole nother thing by itself.
I don't know. Maybe I might be thinking of something else. So yeah, go ahead. I'm always interested, like how artists are, influenced by like where they grew up, as kids, basically. Like in my case, I grew up in a rural desert town that's like wasn't even on the map until a few years ago. It's like basically just Indian reservation, a little bit of farming, and some old abandoned mines and stuff. And so that influenced my comic a lot. So I'd be interested, like how did where you grew up, how does that influence what kind of art you're into or what kind of stories you like or that you want to tell?
So I guess the best way to say it is in the crudest way possible. I'm really into things that feel like the realness of life, like the grittiness of life, like the feeling that that like it goes into it actually goes into a comic that I really want to like pursue and push towards that has to do with I guess my like what I've observed in life. Like it's the reader's observation of this character going pretty much through this crime infested I guess you would say ghetto scummy place, and like that's kind of honestly Petersburg is not the worst place to be, but that's how I've seen it for like a lot, like my 21 years of life is like Petersburg reminds me of a place I don't want to be. So honestly it influences my art in the sense that like the things that I find beautiful usually are the things that feel true, that feel like they just feel like they're telling you like I guess like what's the best way to explain it? It just shows you I guess like true emotion, like it's not afraid to show you pain.
Mhm.
Like the things that really kind of dig deep into like the emotions that like people have. Like I feel like it's actually in a negative way, it's kind of stunted me because I feel like I started off actually in like a nice suburban house with my mom and my dad and my sister and my dog, like a normal kind of nice thing, big like a backyard, uh, what's it called, pool, stuff like that. And slowly as I grew older, I started to notice all the fakeness of everything, like the fakeness of like people around you and things that go on in the house. And that really pushed into my art in the sense of just saying, I want to show the realness of people, like the good, the bad, and the ugly. So it makes me want to create stories that really show what people are like, what human beings can do.
And you kind of gravitate more towards, would you say, like kind of a fantasy sci-fi sort of way of telling it, or are you into more kind of real world sort of settings?
I push a lot to sci-fi, like honestly, like I started off actually wanting to do like anime. Put like it still did I still did like I did like a lot of fantasy like related kind of anime type drawings. Then I pushed into wanting to do superheroes, and I wanted to push into philosophical type superheroes, the ones that make you think about shit, the story that does it, like kind of goes along and does something interesting. And then I pushed into more real life stories, like I was telling you, gritty, sci-fi, like different worlds, but like kind of this, like it feels like a regular, like it feels like the real world we live in, stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, in my experience, like I can always tell when I'm reading a comic or looking at artwork that was done by somebody who's lived through something that resembles the story that they're telling. Like even if they're doing, just like something that's just totally fantasy, like Kazuo Kibuishi's Amulet, where it's about these two kids basically trying to rescue their mother who's been taken by this evil elf dude and a giant giant spider thing. Like you read it and you immediately know, like, dang, this was like written somehow by this guy's experience. I don't know what it was, but I feel it. And it turns out that, and Kazu will talk about this, he'll say like that it was influenced by the time when I think his dad lost his job or something, and he had to basically take care of his parents at a pretty young age, like way younger than most people ever have to even think about that. So I don't know. That's part of why I was excited to have you and Lentz on the stream, because I mean, everybody, hears from artists who, they grew up in LA or New York, and it's like, it was just kind of a logical thing that they would get into the industry or whatever. I'm always interested in hearing from people who, came from, whether that's like middle of nowhere flyover country USA, or like, places like Petersburg, like you're describing. So I don't know. I'm pretty excited for that, and that's why I'm telling you, you gotta find a way to finish a comic, even if it's just a short one. Because I know you're somebody with stories to tell. You just gotta just gotta find your workflow that works for you and lets you get the things told and out there so people know your story.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. It's not really the story. Like this kind of sound like the thing about when I draw, like when I get into like really thinking about this kind of this story is it's not so much from it's not a this person went through this shit.
Yeah.
It's this person went through portions of it, and then it opened the eyes of the character to start looking more and like try like really the story for me is a way, like I want to show, like I want it to be a way to show my journey into finding more humanity, because for a long time I have a tendency to be a very cold person to a lot of people if I don't really see worth in them. Lentz can verify this. I've told him often. Um, so I have a tendency to be like that, but I want to I wanted to show pretty much like how the characters and the things that the character and experiences changes him. Like recently I started teaching kids how to swim at my job, and it made me a little bit more vulnerable and like more willing to put forth the effort to communicate with people in general, like talking to people when I work. So even though I hate my job, of course, no one wants to do their day job. That
Yeah.
it pushes you, like it really shows you something. So it's not really a point. It's not a from his point of view thing. It's more of a observation for the character and the people watching, like looking through the eyes of like the story.
I get you. That's awesome. And I look forward to seeing it. I'm gonna switch over to Lentz here for a minute since I think he had enough time now to get his stuff up. At least I hope he did. All right, Lentz, show us some of your work.
Okay. Let me just switch over screens quickly. Can I just talk about them as I show them?
Yeah, please do. Tell us everything.
Okay. So this is my ArtStation page. It's just where this is basically my portfolio where I put the work that's the most presentable. It's not everything I've done, but it's the best that I've got to show so far. So this is one of the earlier models I made. I think I made this in high school, I believe. It's I was browsing through DeviantArt. Oh yeah, it was high school because DeviantArt was relevant. I was browsing through DeviantArt and I saw this really, really cool Mega Typhlosion design. And I thought this was super, I really, really, really thought it was cool. And this was when I was really early into 3D. I believe I sculpted this in Sculptress and Blender. So I just took my time bringing this model to life. I spent a long time on him trying to get him to look good. And he has a bit of problems, a lot of new mistakes. If I can just load the Sketchfab right now. Is this showing up okay?
Yeah, it's showing up pretty good on my end.
Yep.
Yeah, you can see there's a lot of post-processing here. Like the bloom is turned to crazy high and the shadows are everywhere. And I didn't really know how to render the fire. I hand painted the fire and I gave it reflectiveness for some reason. And when I baked the normal map, I kept the squares on. You can just see the squares not affecting. It's not the cleanest model I've ever made, but
I don't know. I like it.
This
I like
is
the
one of the
2D
first.
fire that you did. Like that. I don't know. I'm a big fan of 3D that doesn't look too realistic and stuff. Like I like it when people leave that kind of artifacty stuff in there.
Oh, cool. Well, I think 16-year-old me appreciates that. And this is some other things. I found a Mega Empoleon model online, same story, and a Mega Embor. I believe I did this freshman year of college.
Yes, I remember this, Mike.
Yeah, I remember working on him for a while too, and man, talk about newbie mistakes. But I still feel fairly happy about this. Sometimes I look back at it and consider redoing it just because I see what I could change. But these three were like my first steps in actually trying to create like legitimate game art with good topology and everything.
And this was all done in Blender, right?
This one I started to incorporate ZBrush into.
Oh, okay.
So because I started learning ZBrush when I got into college, which was 3 years ago. I'm a senior now, so however long that was.
Nice. So what are your plans? While you're showing us your art, like what are your plans after graduation? If that's not too scary to talk about.
It's a lot. Well, it's still pretty scary, but not as scary as I guess it could be. Right now, I work as a contract 3D artist for this 3D print shop in Richmond called 3D Central. If they ever need anything that has a more artistic touch, or if they are overbooked on models they need to make for 3D printing, I just do work for them. So I'm hoping once I'm done with college, I can just go full-time at that place while also continuing to do my freelancing. Because I'm starting to do freelancing now. I have a couple of jobs lined up.
Oh, nice.
It's nothing too huge.
Yeah, but I mean those not too huge jobs, usually they lead to, another job and then another job, and they tend to kind of multiply on each other. They get a little bit bigger, a little bit more well-connected each time. So that's good news.
Yeah, well, let's hope that's the case. But until then, I'll just keep working on this. But yeah, this I think I worked on this sophomore year of college. This is a concept of my friend Allison's. I remember we were staying back for the concept design club before I took my turn and actually like running it. And she just did this really cute doodle of a lady holding coffee. And I asked her, can I model this? And she said, sure. And so I remember I spent really a long time trying to match the concept of the quick sketch. And then I learned later on that she posted the finished final version online. And then I said, oh, I don't have to work as hard to understand what these super tiny sketches are. And I guess I can like pull up the
Yeah, sure.
one that she did. But this is the concept that she did. Also,
okay.
Be sure to follow her. And this is what I did. It matches the quick sketch she did a lot more than the final. But it was my real first time trying to style match.
Oh, it looks pretty. I like that. I mean, it definitely matches the the body type, the figure, and everything. But it has your own like unique interpretation to it, which I really dig.
Oh, thanks.
And I'm biased because she has big hips, and I enjoy that.
They don't lie. This is this is actually a pretty big challenge without me even knowing it. It was just a birthday present for a friend of mine a friend of ours, Lauren.
Oh yeah, I recognize. Yeah, Lauren's stuff is amazing. I'm gonna have to get her on here sometime.
Please do. She has so much to say, I bet. But it was just a quick birthday doodle I thought I'd do for her. So this is one of the biggest times I've ever tried to like match a concept one for one, where it took me a couple days, but I really tried to get everything to line up as best as it could. And looking back at it, it's not as perfect as I thought it was, but I came pretty dang close.
Yeah, I was gonna say like that's way more exact than the previous one. And Lauren's style is not easy to imitate. Like there've been a couple times, I'm not gonna lie, where I've looked at her stuff and I'm like, dang, I kind of want to try drawing faces the way she does. It's freaking hard.
It's crazy. She definitely puts a lot of work into her stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. Like some people, like they have a style that's really easy to kind of hook into and a little bit, whether you're just kind of doing it just for practice or if you actually want to incorporate it into your work style. Her stuff it looks like it would be easy to figure out, but it's not. There's so many subtleties to it that are just uniquely Lauren that I'm like, yeah, anything I try doing resembling it would just look weird and awkward and mutated, and I would hide it in my attic and feed it fish heads.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so moving on. This is I believe I did this my junior year. This was a series of pieces I did as a commission. I think this is my very first commission, actually.
Tell us about this, because I remember seeing the dragon, but these other ones are new to me.
Yeah, the dragon is definitely the eye catcher. No matter how many times I showed the other people, even though I'm pretty proud of like how this came out and how the tiger someone came out, the dragon is always the showstopper for people. This so a buddy of mine just had a friend who wanted 5 pieces done for their culture. They're having a culture art show, and they wanted 5 pieces that represented both Korean and South African culture. And so the dragon and the tiger and the crane are of Korean culture, and the masquerade and the mask are of Nigerian culture. This took me quite a while to do.
Yeah, I'll bet. I would say if I had to pick out of any of them for my favorites, it's actually the mask that really drew me in. I mean, the detail on the dragon is freaking crazy, and I can see why people would immediately stop in their browsing to look at that. But the mask is the one that I don't know, that kind of just like invites a lot more story, the most amount of story for me.
Yeah, thanks. But yeah, each of these took a long time, and I was pretty happy with the result. And it was my first time delivering to actual somebody, and she was flabbergasted when she saw these finals. And I said, I guess they're okay. It took a while, but imposter syndrome never really leaves. I don't know if that's imposter syndrome or me knowing that I need to get better. Possibly both.
Nice. So now, which program again were those done in? You may have said it, but I missed it, I think.
Oh, starting after this one, all of my pieces are using the same 3 programs, which are just ZBrush, Blender, and Photoshop.
Okay. Now, how long did it take you to crack the learning curve for ZBrush?
Like I said before, ZBrush I started learning my freshman year, and I just kept hammering at it. And so I've been using it for about 4 years now. And it took about 2 years for me to get a really good understanding of how to maneuver it. Typically 2 years is once somebody spends around that time, maybe like 1 or 1.5 if they're really, really dedicated and spend like multiple hours a day to learning the software, they can get it done. Mm-hmm. But it took me 2 years to understand it. And then after that, I started to really, really get into the habit of understanding the software and making my own custom UI and custom brushes and focusing on speed and efficiency rather than learning what the software is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, this is my second commission ever, but not my second. I've had a couple after the first one, but they're pretty small ones. This one was the first actual game piece I've ever done. This is the first thing I've ever done to actually be inside of an actual game.
Oh, nice. Is this game released now?
Yeah, it's in early access on Steam. It's not that big of a game. It's made by one person. It's called Hammerhelm. And I can pull it up here. Actually.
Okay, cool. So if people want to check that out, that's where they can find it.
Yeah, if you want to play a game with my art in it, go ahead. You can see her running around right now in like the first 3 seconds of the trailer, which is still mind-blowing to me, just seeing my models in motion.
Oh, so this was the main character that you designed?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool then. You weren't just doing, backgrounds or NPCs.
It's a pretty small game. Indie games, you typically have to wear a lot more hats, and it's a lot easier to get like a front row position. And so the guy asked me to model the main female dwarf character. And so that's what I did here. This took me a long time because it was my first time actually working with a client, for, I guess, production. And so it was my first time dealing with the back and forth of having to talk about topology and the texture mapping and actually everything I've been learning really put to the test because now I have to deliver for somebody for an actual product. And so this was
done in ZBrush, correct?
Yes, this is ZBrush, Blender, and rendered in a program called Marmoset, but that wasn't used to make it. That was just used to render it. But yeah, this is a huge learning experience for me. And then not too long after that one, he commissioned me to do this one, which is the male version of the dwarf in the game. So he's also like a playable character. You can see him running around here on screen.
Oh, nice.
And this is also a big, it was massively time consuming because he wanted the character plus 8 separate beard pieces. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 separate beard pieces and 4 separate hair pieces. And so all that put together took a very long time to do. Oh, not to mention that he also had like different specifications for how he wanted the character to look. And this was also a huge challenge, but it was also a really great learning experience as well. And I'm right now currently in the middle of working with the guy again for some monsters. So that's coming to my ArtStation pretty soon.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so that reminds me, I want to make sure that I've got your ArtStation linked in my description for the video. Gary, can people find you mostly on Instagram, or is there anywhere else that you post your work that you'd like me to direct them to?
Honestly, I use Instagram. I'm not too well known or well developed in my own, so I don't really have anything like that.
Well, hopefully people will follow you there. And as you get more and more people watching your art, the pressure will build, and you'll feel them staring at you, tapping on your windows at night, wondering when Gary is going to.
This don't sound rude, but I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind some taking on some commissions. You know what I mean? So I gotta work.
All right, folks, you've heard it right there. I'm closed for commissions. I am not taking commissions.
I'll start a comic when somebody starts paying me to draw things for them. Okay.
Your inbox just floods the next day.
I will say that one of the best ways, though, to get people to pay for your work is you have to front a little bit for them and get them hungry for it, which is kind of what I'm doing with my comic. I'm not asking for any money for it yet, but that's what my business plan is. I'm going to try and get as far into it as I can. Maybe once it's like 50% colored, then I'll start, I don't know, sneaking onto people's property at night and telling them like, "Hey, follow me on Twitter. Now's your turn to pay me to finish this."
So
yeah,
this is also one reason that I have a hard time trying to do comics when I look at my layouts for some stuff. This was a 15-page comic I was supposed to do.
I mean, it's a little bit hard to read on just on the phone screen, but I can see the compositions kind of.
Like, that's the thing. It's just a lot that I want to do.
I don't know. That doesn't look like too many panels on per page. I would say, as a rule of thumb, maybe don't go over what's it? My math suddenly just took a fart. I would say don't go over 9 panels per page on average. I mean, that's not a rule. That's just a guideline.
Gotcha.
But that's kind of what I've been trying to do, is trying to keep my panel count at 9 per page. And I find that it's just easier to work within that. So anyways, go back to that 15-page comic you were talking about. Let's hear a little bit about that.
Well, best start, it was pretty much me coming up with something random, and I started drawing over here, just drawing up this mermaid type character. Again, it's sci-fi for the most part. It's just it's pretty much the equivalency of saying, what happens if the world above craps out and everybody moves to the water, and they end up it's like places where they're living underwater. They pretty much have engineered fish and technology together, so they put fish over top of their heads to breathe. I don't know how I'm gonna make that actually work as an actual thing, but so this main character is a lab assistant, goes to the depths to pretty much get this energy source that's supposed to help them bring back the old world. And he's stopped by these these killer mermaids, and in the end, I'm just gonna tell the story because I don't know if I'm gonna really put forth the effort for this one, even though I like it.
Yeah, but if you tell us everything about it, you'll definitely never do it. So leave just a couple secrets, but tell people enough so that they'll want to know more.
Well, guys, if the commissions hit, you'll get to see giant mermaid creatures that can shoot magma out of their mouth. So stay tuned, motherfucker. Stay tuned.
I'll bet to it.
I'm already signing up for the Patreon.
Sorry, now I'm trying to figure out what I was doing here. But yeah, that's some of my I guess my most recent sketchbook that I haven't really been touching as much because I'm trying to do the Inktober thing, so.
Yeah, stick with it. Stick with Inktober, even if it's just a little sticky note sketch or something. I mean, I'm definitely sizing down my sketches for this year just because I gotta focus on my efforts on the comic. But even just putting something out there every day with the right hashtags, it'll help.
Honestly, I might leave this drawing that I've started here and push to something smaller because I don't feel like I'm gonna be able to do it by the end of what time is it? It's already 8:48, and I have to ink this whole thing. So I'm probably gonna do something smaller and maybe find a picture in my book and start inking that right now.
Yeah, definitely do it. Well, we're coming up on an hour here, so I figured this would probably be a good point to wrap up.
That was fast.
So yeah, I know time flies. I'm getting hungry though. I don't know about you guys. And yeah, just looking at Lentz's anatomy rendering, it makes me hungry.
These delicious calves.
Yeah, I know, right? So anyways, yeah, so one more time, Lentz and then Gary, tell my viewers where they can find you at.
Go, Lentz.
Okay. Well, the naming convention for my social media is a little silly, but if you want to find me on Twitter, you can find me at Lentz_whale. If you want to find me on Instagram, it's Lentz_crab. Please look in the description to know how to spell that because my name is very weirdly spelled.
Yeah, I mispronounced it earlier. Thanks for correcting me without making me look too much like an idiot.
I didn't even catch that.
I was like, Lentz Marseille.
I heard that.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot.
Sorry, like I don't. I guess France exists. I don't know. TV says so.
Oh, and if you want to follow my ArtStation, it's artstation.com/brosif, like BROSIF. And that's all my links.
Awesome. All right, Gary.
So you can find me on Instagram. I almost definitely was about to say at my trash pile, the gregarious villain. You can find my art at the gregarious villain, or you can
Gregarious villain. All right, how's that spelled?
GREGARIOUS villain.
Awesome.
Because yeah, that was my thing for some reason. I don't know why.
I dig it. Well, before we wrap up, show us a little bit more of that sketchbook page that you've got there. Just move it up a little bit so it looks.
This is a old sketchbook page of when I was working on pretty much I was working on the story I was telling you about when it came to the whole the scummy world and pretty much playing to like the whole truths of the world that we live in a story, and I was pretty much just designing some characters because the story is a future is a off-world, off-Earth type thing where you have human inhabitants, but you also have aliens. You have different species kind of working together, kind of how life works, like where you have different races working together, different types of people. And this actually a large portion of my comic has like influences from music and color and mood. One thing I was doing was I was trying to pretty much use a reference to draw a Childish Gambino or Donald Glover as this what's it called? This pretty much he's a drug dealer. He is a drug dealer who sells love. He sells love in a bottle. And,
I like it.
This is his pretty much his fangirl, who isn't really with him because of the drugs, mostly with him because of his attitude. And she's just she's pretty much that anime girl that's just angry, that tsundere. She just treats everybody, pretty much she's like a barracuda mixed with something like a woman. Like she's fierce. So she'll come up on like a 6-foot woman and try to stab her if people get too close.
All right, so I'm digging it. All right, well, I'll make sure that my viewers eventually know where to find your guys' Patreons or crowdfunding whenever those go up in the future, which I hope they will, because I want them to have a way to throw money at you, because that's what I'm all about, is getting good artists paid so that they can make more of that stuff. So I got to get something to eat. I figure you guys got to get some food in you too. It's probably getting late there in Richmond. So this has been a pretty good talk. I feel like we only just kind of touched the surface of a lot of things. So we'll definitely have to do another call like this sometime in the future. But yeah, it's great having you guys here. Hopefully, yeah, everybody follow the links in the description. Give them a follow on Instagram, Twitter, ArtStation, Tumblr, everywhere. And until next time, yeah, I'll see you.